The Nawab family of Dhaka was a zamindar family in British Bengal. The title of Nawab, similar to the British peerage, was conferred upon the head of the family by the British Raj as a recognition of their loyalty in the time of the Sepoy Mutiny. The self-definition is a family instead of an estate due to certain legal considerations imposed by the East Bengal State Acquisition and Tenancy Act of 1950. They were not sovereigns, but played an important role in the politics of South Asia. The family was owner of Dhaka Nawab estate, and were seated at Hassan Manzil Palace. Nawab of Dhaka was the title of the head of family and estate. Khwaja Alamullah was the first Nawab of Dhaka instated by the British Raj. Khwaja Abdul Ghani was the first person in the family to wield the title as a statesman. Considerable infighting within the Nawab family led to the decline of the estate. In 1952, the East Pakistan Estates Acquisition Act formally abolished the estate. Khwaja Habibullah Khan Bahadur was the last reigning Nawab of Dhaka. Successive land reform in Pakistan and Bangladesh brought an end to the remaining landholdings of the Nawab family. History. Ancestry. The ancestors of the Khwajas were Muslim merchants in Kashmir in North India. The history of Dhaka Nawab family begins with Khwaja Abdul Qadir Kashmiri, who migrated from Kashmir to Sylhet sometimes in the 18th century. He married Asiri Khanum, the daughter of Khwaja Abdul Hakim Kashmiri, an administrator of Kashmir. Abdul Hakim also migrated to Sylhet and died there. His son Maulvi Khwaja Abdullah Alam arrived in Dhaka and settled in Begum Bazar. After his death in 1796 he was buried there with Shah Nuri. Khwaja Abdul Hakim, governor of Kashmir under the Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah, first to migrate to Bengal from Kashmir, left Kashmir due to the invasion of India by Nadir Shah. Father of the following, Khwaja Abdul Wahab and Khwaja Abdullah. The history of this family goes back to about the year 1730 when the two brothers, Khwaja Abdul Wahab and Khwaja Abdullah, arrived in Dhaka, directly from Kashmir, and settled in a part of old Dhaka known as Begum Bazar. It is quite obvious that they travelled this long distance in search of the fortune. The elder brother, Khwaja Abdul Wahab, went into business straight away, while the younger brother, Khwaja Abdullah, who was a very pious and a learned man, started preaching to the local people the rules and various disciplines of the teachings of Islam. It must have been for this reason that he was addressed as Maulvi Abdullah. Foundation. The transition from Khwaja family to the Dhaka Nawab family was largely founded by Khwaja Hafizullah Kashmiri, a merchant prince of Dhaka, who acquired considerable wealth from trading in leather, salt and spices together with Marwari trading partners. He also purchased some floundering zamindar estates, on sale everywhere in Bengal under permanent settlement, and indigo factories in Barisal district and Mymensingh district. Some of the major land acquisitions of Hafizullah were ATI Pargana in the then Mymensingh district. Hafizullah bought a 4-anna share of the Pargana, including Damri, the ATIA mosque built in 1608, and much of Madhurpur forest. In 1806, on the strength of a mortgage bond for 40,000 rupees. Profits from this purchase inspired him to buy more land properties. Ila Fuljuri in the Bakarganj Sundarbans, a 44,000 acres area, bought for 21,000 rupees in 1812, at a revenue demand of only 372 rupees annually. After clearing of the jungle was effected, in the late 1870s, its estimated total rental income appeared as high as 2 rupees 20,502. Establishment due to an absence of any surviving male successor of Hafiz-ullah. His estate on his death descended on his nephew Khwaja Alamullah, son of his deceased elder brother Ahsanullah, whom he groomed as an astute estate manager. His landed acquisitions were added to those of his uncle, consequently making the united zamindari one of the largest in the province. Before his death in 1854, Alamullah made a WAQF for a united status of the zamindari which was to be managed jointly by a mutawali. It is to be noted that Khwaja Ahsanullah, the eldest son of Maulvi Abdullah, died on his way to pilgrimage in Mecca in 1813. His brother, Khwaja Hafiz-ullah, also started to preach Islam, but, along with it, he also engaged himself in doing business. He earned a lot of money by trading in gold, jute, salt and leather, and by investing his wealth by purchasing estates of some hereditary Muslim zamindars of East Bengal who were then on the verge of collapse. He upgraded the Khwaja family into a family of zamindars. His nephew, Khwaja Alamullah, who was the third son of Khwaja Ahsanullah, is reported to have been the most enterprising member of the clan, and he laid the foundation upon which successive heads of the family built the prosperity and power. Evidently, he was a handsome man with an eye for business as well as the ladies. In the book on Nawab Salamullah al-Haj M.D., Sirajuddin writes, Khwaja Alamullah was learned in philosophy. His tutor was the famous Sufi, Shafi'i. Khwaja Alamullah practiced medicine in his early life and was one of the most successful doctors of Dhaka. He often said Plato might be superior to me in intelligence, but he was not my superior in knowledge. He had unending thirst for knowledge. It was the dynamic Alamullah, writes Al-Masakiruddin, who, in 1835, purchased a sand manzil from French traders who had been using the building as their factory for many years. Quote, he learnt English and encouraged members of his family to learn English, and forged ties of friendship with Englishmen by mixing with them freely. He did some development work for the Dhaka municipality and many other social welfare activities with the help of the British, who also helped him to set up the Ramna racecourse. He purchased the famous diamond Dar-e-Noor at a government auction in 1852. The diamond is presently in a vault of the Sonali Bank in Dhaka. He made a waqfnama in the service of Allah and gave all the income of his Arta Pargana to the poor permanently. In 1846 he made a waqfnama in favor of his second son Khwaja Abdul Ghani, and made him a powerful mutawali for the management of all the properties of the Khwaja family. That famous waqfnama is reported to be the main key responsible for the success of the Khwaja family of Dhaka. Khwaja Alamullah died in 1854 and was buried in the Begum Bazar graveyard. Khwaja Abdul Hakim, the eldest son of Khwaja Alamullah from his first wife, was to become the mutawali, but due to internal family politics and being a very simple and deeply religious person and to safeguard the family, gave up the interest in business or finance of the family. Hence, as mentioned above, Khwaja Abdul Ghani, his second son from his second wife, was made the mutawali. Khwaja Abdul Hakim's descendants, Khwaja Mansur, Khwaja Mashkur, Khwaja Mahab, Khwaja Aref, Khwaja Zara, Khwaja Nadim, Nawabzadi Sarah and her younger sister Nawabzadi Sadiya. Expansion on the succession of Khwaja Abdul Ghani to the management that the prosperity of the house reached its zenith. Under him the land control of the family was extended to many parganas in the districts of Dhaka, Bakerganj, Tripura, and Mymensingh. For management he split the zamindari into 26 subcircles, each governed by a Kachari headed by an Naib with a number of amlas. He was vested with the personal title of Nawab in 1875, which was made hereditary in 1877. With Khwaja Abdul Ghani, the Khwaja family for the first time developed interest in the politics and social works of the country. He also organized Dhaka people into Panchayat Mahalas, which was endorsed by the British Raj in view of his support to the Raj during the Sepoy Mutiny. In his book, Vignettes of India, Sir Percival Griffiths, ICS, has devoted a chapter entitled An East Bengal Interlude, in which he has written very briefly about the Dhaka Nawab family and his impressions about some of the personalities. He was appointed chief manager of the Dhaka Nawab estate in April 1929. He writes, Abdul Ghani and the Muslims of East Bengal stood firmly by the Raj during the Indian Mutiny, and for his services, Abdul Ghani was not only knighted, but also had the title of Nawab conferred upon him. He was made a Nawab in 1875, and Nawab Bahadur in 1892. Nawab Abdul Ghani made several contributions towards benevolent and charitable work, not only in the city and elsewhere in Bengal but also beyond the Indian subcontinent. His most conspicuous public act was the waterworks system in Dhaka city. The filtered water was supplied free of charge to the people of Dhaka. In addition, he established a number of schools, madrasas, and donated funds for the Mitford Hospital in Dhaka, Kolkata Medical College and Aligarh College. He supported women to act in dramas in spite of the opposition of leaders of the conservative society. At the beginning of the Christian era each year, he arranged a grand fair in Shabar Garden, and maintained a Portuguese band to entertain guests on festive occasions. In his book Glimpses of Old Dhaka, Saeed Muhammad Taifoor writes, Abdul Ghani had a chaykhana on the river bank where every morning from 8 to 10, he treated people with tea. He took advantage of this opportunity to hear grievances of the people, and took measures to remedy them. Abdul Ghani died in 1896 at the age of 82. The writer remembers to have accompanied his cortege, which was followed by no less than 1 lakh of people, most of whom had tears in their eyes. A London daily commented on his death, Today, the morning sun has set. We cannot hope that it will rise in 1,000 years. His acts of public and private charity were very numerous and magnificent, in aid of schools and colleges, hospitals and dispensaries, clubs and societies, mosques and tombs, the sick, the poor. He spent very large sums. His charity was not confined to his country or nationality. Nawab Abdul Ghani handed over the responsibility of the Dhaka Nawab estate to his eldest son, Khwaja Rasanullah, on the 11th of September 1868, but continued to supervise the estate until his death on the 24th of August 1896. Consolidation. Nawab's Khwaja Rasanullah, Abdul Ghani's son, adopted a unique strategy to consolidate the zamindari control that was threatened by the operation of the Bengal Tenancy Act, 1885. When this act was enacted, he started buying off intermediate tenures and rayati rights with family surplus and settling them as castes. Under this arrangement, the Khwajas became their own tenants. This strategy kept much of the estate intact when the zamindari system was abolished in 1951. Khwaja Rasanullah was born in Dhaka in the year 1846. He was reported to be a natural Urdu poet and his pen name was Shaheen. He was known to compose verses spontaneously and at the spur of the moment at the request of his friends. His songs disclose a joyous and optimistic outlook on life. His selected poems, Kulyati Shaheen, is preserved in the Dhaka University. His book, Tawarikh-e Khandan-e Kashmiriya, is a very important addition to Urdu literature and history. He was a man of such influence that he was known as the uncrowned king of East Bengal, and for his many public services he received the title of Nawab Bahadur, writes Sir Percival Griffiths. Both father and son had the title of Nawab conferred upon them in 1875 and in 1877. This title was made hereditary for the eldest member of the line. Nawab Hasanullah maintained a tireless vigil on mass education, and donated generously for various worthy causes. He established the Hasanullah School of Engineering, and being thoughtful of the health of the residents of Dhaka, he, along with his father, contributed towards the establishment of a water tank from which filtered water would be supplied to the citizens of Dhaka as far back as 1874. There is no mosque, mausoleum, or important public institution in Dhaka which does not bear the stamp of His Magnificence, writes Saeed Muhammad Taifour. The electricity in Dhaka was installed by him in the year 1901, which must have been shortly before he died that year in December during the month of Ramadan. He died of heart failure on board his barge soon after the death of his father, and he was buried in the family graveyard. Decline. Nawab Salamullah, the eldest son of Hasanullah, took up the management of the zamindari in 1902. But soon family feuds started and Salamullah lost the grip on the estate. The estate management deteriorated to the extent of rising revenue arrears and estate debts. For political considerations, the government backed up Nawab Salamullah financially, which included a confidential official loan to Salamullah to clear up his personal debts. Nawab Khwaja Salamullah of Dhaka and the Muslim aristocrats who formed the bulwark of the Muslim League in 1906 inspired Muslim peasants against the Swadeshi movement in support of partition of Bengal. Together with Nawab Ali Chowdhury, he was instrumental in initiating A.K. Fazlul Huq into politics, who isolated Muslim League from peasants and defeated Khwaja Nazimuddin at the Patuakhali constituency in the election of 1937. Dhaka Nawab family, together with the Ispahanis of Kolkata, still kept a firm grip on a majority of Muslim students, while the Bengal chapter of the All India Muslim Students Association was renamed as All Bengal Muslim Students League in 1938. The tottering Dhaka Nawab estate was brought under the Court of Wards in September 1907. The first steward of the estate was H.C.F. Ma, who was followed by L.G. Pillin, P.J. Griffith, and P.D. Martin, all members of the Indian Civil Service. Nawab Khwaja Salamullah Bahadur A.C.I.E., as he was officially addressed, was born on the 7th of June 1871, and according to the tradition of the Nawab family, writes Al-Hajj Muhammad Sirajuddin, he was educated at home by a British and a German teacher, and experts in Urdu and Persian. He married in August 1893, and in the same year he joined government service as a deputy magistrate. He spent a year in Mymensingh and was then transferred to Muzaffarpur in Bihar. One of the reasons why he joined government service would appear to be a strained relationship with his father Nawab Hasanullah. Quote, according to Saeed Muhammad Taifour in his book Glimpses of Old Dhaka, his father did not like him, perhaps on account of his extreme religious proclivities, so he kept to himself, aloof from him and the government, in consideration of his family prestige. Straightway appointed him a deputy magistrate in the senior rank. On 16 December 1901, while he was posted in Mymensingh, he received a telegram informing him of the death of his father, and on his arrival in Dhaka the next morning, as the eldest son, and with the unanimous consent of all parties concerned, was installed as the new Nawab. Nawab Salamullah was a great educational reformer, and like his father, was inclined to prodigal liberality. He was a great philanthropist, rendering financial assistance to many poor students, and established the largest orphanage of undivided Bengal, which was named Salamullah Muslim Orphanage. For the benefit of Muslim students, he donated the well-known Salamullah Muslim Hall in Dhaka, which was then the largest residential hall in any Asian university. Nawab Salimullah is mainly remembered today for three of his greatest achievements. Firstly, the part he played in the partition of Bengal, which was implemented on 16 October 1905, aimed at freeing the Bengali Muslims from the bondage of Hindu domination, and to secure the socio-economic progress by establishing a separate Muslim-majority province. Secondly, for being the founder of such a strong political party as the All India Muslim League in December 1906, and the establishment of Dhaka University in 1912. Sir Percival Griffiths, who was chief manager of the Dhaka Nawab estate in 1929, writes in his book, The Vignettes of India, obviously from a British point of view, Ahsanullah's son, Sir Salimullah, succeeded to his father's influence and was a staunch supporter of the British government at the time of the partition of Bengal in 1905. Bengal at the time consisted of much of Bihar and Orissa and West Bengal, as well as East Bengal and Assam. East Bengal and Assam, with a majority Muslim population, were detached from Bengal and created into a separate province. The Hindus, who formed the majority of politically conscious people in Bengal, were at once up in arms. In this critical period, Salimullah rendered great support to the government and carried out a protracted campaign in which he explained the wisdom of the action taken. Some years later, the British government surrendered to the Hindu agitation and annulled partition, creating two provinces, Bihar and Orissa, reconstituted Bengal, and separated Assam as a separate unit under a chief commissioner. This change of policy may or may not have been wise, but unfortunately no previous warning of it was given, and on the evening before the annulment was announced, Salimullah addressed a meeting in support of partition. The announcement thus came as a great shock, and the archives of the Dhaka Nawab estate in my time included a pathetic letter from Salimullah, written immediately after the annulment, in which he declared that he would never again trust a promise by the British government of the word of an Englishman, as has so often happened in the great families of India. After 3 generations of splendor, the Nawab family now entered on a period of decline. Extravagant living and the necessity of maintaining an ever-increasing number of dependents were the main causes of the trouble, but to them must be added the considerable sums spent by Ahsanullah and Salimullah on public service pro-partition propaganda. The family was heavily in debt, and in view of the political importance of the family, its estates were brought under the Court of Wards in 1909. As a result of the Muslim law of inheritance, the family became so split up that many of its members lived on less than the salary of a petty clerk. They just slummed it in the palace, the Ahsan Manzil, in which they were entitled to live. Fortunately, one portion of the family property was protected against this splitting up by the creation of what was known as Waqf Trust, in which the property was nominally dedicated to God, but was in fact enjoyed by the mutawali, or manager. He enjoyed its income though he could not alienate the property, and on his death it merely passed to another mutawali. Sir Salimullah was the first man of the Nawab family of Dhaka to actively participate in politics. He is reported to have said that his grandfather Nawab Sir Abdul Ghani and his father Nawab Khwaja Ahsanullah were men of international renown and were imbibed with the love of the country and people, but they refrained from participating in politics. It was in his destiny to open the door to politics for the Nawab family of Dhaka. Nawab Salimullah died in Calcutta on 16th January 1915, and his coffin was brought to Dhaka by a special launch, and he was buried in the family graveyard in Begum Bazaar. Nawab Khwaja Ali Hassan Askari, Nawab of Dhaka, so of Nawabzada Khwaja Amanullah Askari and Ishrat Aurangzeb. Fall. The Dhaka Nawab estate was abolished in 1952 under the East Bengal Estate Acquisition and Tenancy Act. Only the Ahsan Manzil complex and Khas lands held under Rayati rights were exempted from the operation of the Acquisition Act. but due to many unresolved family claims, many assets of the estate were still controlled by the Court of Wards. The Land Reforms Board, which is the successor of the Court of Wards, still holds those assets on behalf of the family. The influence of Dhaka Nawab family on the Muslim Students' League eroded after the partition, particularly after Muhammad Ali Jinnah's pronouncement on the state language issue in 1948. The anti-Khwaja faction of the Muslim League broke away, for the All Bengal Muslim Students' League, and established East Pakistan Muslim Students' League in 1948. This Students' League spearheaded the language movement that began that year.